are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 234 of the College Loop Podcast. I am Dylan Larck here to talk to you today about the latest in Auburn athletics news, where today we're going to be covering some topics such as fall camp, which starts today, the linebacker preview is today, and some nice little Auburn basketball non-con schedule release news. But as we get started with fall camp, I'm going to just talk about what we want to hear from fall camp. I think that I speak for everyone. I could be wrong, but I think I do. Whenever I say, first off, I think every fan wants this to be a dramaless fall camp within the quarterback position. This is the first season since 2021 where Auburn is not going into the season not knowing which quarterback is going to take that first snap against Alabama A&M on August 31st. We are officially 30 days away until college football starts, which means you got at the most 29 to 30 days of practices before you step on the field. And just walking in, Peyton Thorne is the guy. 2022 you walked in, it was TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford were like the two main ones, and then you go in 2023, Peyton Thorne comes in, and then he has to battle out Robbie Ashford all throughout the season to get there. But ever since 000s hit on the Maryland game, which a lot of people would have disagreed with the decision, Hugh Freeze has said that it is Peyton Thorne's team in 2024. And it went that way through the spring. It's gone through the summer now. It is going to go into the fall. Peyton Thorne is the starting quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. And now it's up to Peyton Thorne to make sure that drama stays away, making sure that he is developing into, it's hard to say like a guy, I think a graduate. I think he's just a senior, developing in his final season, which we've seen it before plenty of times in college football. You hope that there is that next level, that step up from the previous year. I think it'd be pretty hard for Peyton Thorne as the starting quarterback for all of the 12 regular season games for there to be a replication of what happened the previous year, where Auburn was ranked dead last in the SEC and some passing categories. But I truly think that it is in Auburn's best interest to not tell the fans about that drama. I listened to the War Report yesterday, and they completely said that too, and I completely agree with it. So I don't want to steal that idea from them completely. But yeah, I think that you are happily going into this fall camp knowing who your QB1 is. QB2 is another story. I think it was a few years back. I think during the Bo Nix era, where it was kind of more of a speculation of who was going to be quarterback 2 rather than, Bo's going to be QB1, which was always an interesting battle whenever you hear, all right, who's going to be the backup to the starting quarterback. Another thing you kind of want to hear about in this during fall camp is the defensive backs, the secondary. How are they meshing together? Keontae Scott is still going. He's going to be going into the season in a new position to him in an Auburn jersey. He's not going to be playing the star position this year. He's going to be playing the outside corner. He's going to be the starting corner for Auburn this year, alongside Kyan Lee, and a slew of other outstanding secondary talent that Auburn picked up over the course of the season. And of course, you got the safeties. You got Jaron Thompson, who I don't think I've heard a bad thing about Jaron Thompson ever since he stepped foot in Auburn. And you're kind of wondering, like, who's going to be that guy next to him? Who's going to be the other safety up top? Is it going to be, Caleb Wooden? Is it going to be Laquan Robinson? You're really trying to speculate and see, how many new faces are going to be in the secondary. How much is Champ Anthony going to be involved at the star position or just like around in the corners? But I ultimately think that is something that Auburn's going to have to really, really, really work on in fall campus to make sure the secondary is a cognitive unit. And of course, Auburn has always been known for that. And, you have two very, very good coaches for the secondary, and Charles Kelly, the assistant defensive coordinator, and of course, Coach Crime Dog. And I say that to say, I mean, Auburn hasn't really had anything to worry about since Crime Dog stepped foot on the Plains. You have a guy who can coach with the best of them in terms of getting guys developed and ready ready to step foot in the next level. But I think that you're kind of going into the season with less veteran talent than you've had in previous years. So you really want to make sure that those guys are meshing well together, that, there's not big plays given up. And, when it comes to fall camp, you never know what you want to hear in terms of how the team is looking. If the defense is giving the offense problems, is the defense really good, or is the offense really bad? If the offense is giving the defense problems, is the offense really good, or is the defense really bad? And it's just like a vicious cycle that we as sports fans have to deal with every single time you see those headlines come up. Peyton Thorne throws an interception in practice, and then everyone blows up about how we shouldn't start Peyton Thorne. Or if Jarquez Hunter rushes for a 40-yard touchdown during a scrimmage, oh well, the linebacker room is giving up too many big plays. It's something that that's just another thing. The fans need to spend this last little jog into the season with some unity within themselves. This is going to be a season where I think you either are expecting just progressive going into the season. You're expecting some progression in terms of maybe adding a win, maybe adding 2 wins. 8 wins is, or I think 7 wins is the over under on most betting sites, and then I currently have Auburn at 8 wins. But there are a couple of people that I've seen who are going to the season. What's the word I'm looking for here? Delusioned. Where they think Auburn's going to come out of the season 9, 10, 11, 12 wins, which 12 is undefeated in the regular season, which, I mean, I don't want to say is completely impossible. I think it's just very improbable. And just kind of how the season's going, I just, the one thing that annoys me the most about this season that we're going into is that the fans haven't gotten content with the fact that Peyton Thorne will be the starting quarterback going this year. There's still a lot of people who are angry, who are still upset from last year, saying, "Oh, we should have got a portal quarterback. Oh, throw the freshman into the fire right away. Can Holden Garner and Hank Brown actually develop into an RPO quarterback?" It's all those kind of things that people have been asking, but with 30 days until Auburn steps foot on the football field in front of 85,000 Auburn fans who are rabid and been waiting for the season for a year, you kind of want to hope that everyone's behind Peyton Thorne. And you hope so, at least. You hope that by the time the season starts, people are, all right, fresh slate. You've heard all offseason long that Thorne's improved. He's looked a lot better than he did last year, a lot more confident than he was last year. So now you're really, waiting to see how it looks on the field, but you're not really going to get a true test of how he looks until, you play a P5 opponent in Cal in week 2. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. But I've come around. I'm behind Peyton Thorne. I think I've seen a lot of the film from him from practices. I've heard him talking to the media. I've seen what Hugh Freeze has been saying, and Hugh Freeze's biggest kryptonite as a coach, the fact that he is overly honest about things. And you're going into a year where it seems that things are going in the right direction for Peyton Thorne. And I understand, again, it's the last season mantra. He wasn't good last year. Why would we expect any different from this year? But plenty of quarterbacks were on the same path and turned out to be. And, Peyton Thorne doesn't have to be a superstar level quarterback for Auburn to win football, for Auburn to win football games this year. He didn't have to be a superstar quarterback for Auburn to win football games last year. And I just think that if Peyton Thorne is just average, I think Auburn gets to that 7-8 win conversation. I think you get to 2,500 passing yards. You have 8 wins right there. And Auburn has done their dirty work to get their star-studded wide receiver room that they have right now, and the recruiting, the portal going absolutely crazy in high school recruiting. Getting Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, Bryce Kane, the Freeze Four, just in total. You go get Kendra Leonard Smith and I was say Georgia State. No, you got Robert Lewis, sorry. And you built up the wide receiver room. You took what you had last year and you improved upon it in every single way. The running back room, you kept Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb. The tight ends, you brought in Rico Walker to back up guys like Mike O'Reilly, Luke Deal, Rivaldo Fairweather to just build more depth for the offense. The offensive line, of course, is a huge example of that as well. There's a very few positions on the offensive line where I think the next guy up would offer a severe drop off from where we are. I don't take that as an insult to anything, but ultimately I do think that does help kind of show the strength of the offensive line. And you picked up guys like Percy Lewis. You moved Dylan Wade to the inside so he could be more comfortable in his position. You have the best center in college football in Connor Lew. And really the only thing you're waiting on is for your right tackle and Xavier Miller to truly start to develop into, how talented he can be. But I think ultimately it is, I've said this all offseason long. It's been a mantra of mine to just say and kind of make sure that everyone understands. It is time for Auburn fans to, if you're not going to get excited about who's starting at your quarterback position, at least be content. At least be, don't go into the season thinking what you did last year. Go into the season with new eyes, get new opinions about the quarterback position. I'm not gonna ask anybody because I think everyone's tired of me beating that dead horse of saying, "Oh, you got to get on Peyton Thorne's side now." I'm gonna change it up because I've changed my ways. Last year I was a Robbie Ashford supporter. I still hope he has a great career over there at South Carolina, but I am going to be I am a Peyton Thorne supporter going into this year. I changed my ways halfway through the year last year. Peyton Thorne showed flashes of what he can be with the high level of Peyton Thorne. But you also saw some bad. And I think that you've heard the spring that he is working towards that. He has talent around him that he can throw the ball to. He has a new offensive line. You don't have to expect him to have to run the ball 40 times this season. I think you're going to see a moderate level of quarterback runs than you did what you had to see last year. So all I'm saying is, if you don't want to go into the season wanting Peyton Thorne as your quarterback, at least go into the season content that you have a veteran leader at the quarterback position who, again, just has to play average for Auburn to get to 7 wins. That's all it takes. And that's a win, one more win than last year. And then after this year, you go into the next season with Walker White as a potential starter and like Hank Brown. And, if they pick up 2025 quarterback, and I believe they will, as well as maybe picking up a portal quarterback strictly not to start, but to be like a mentor level quarterback for the guys coming up. But that's kind of the fall camp conversation. I'm going to go into the next little thing. Before I do, since we are about halfway through the show, I'm going to give a little ad and then we're going to come back and then we're going to do the Linebackers preview. So we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. And of course, both this can be found on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop. First page is the college loop hat, which I'm currently wearing right now. I just put, there we go. And the Feelin' Loopy t-shirt, which I'm not wearing right now, is currently in my washing machine. But make sure to grab both of those, $50 combined, $25 each. And of course, if you were enjoying the show, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And I'll leave it there. I'll pressure you more into subscribing at the end of the show. But to kind of get into the linebackers preview, Auburn is going to this year with the two guys who are going to be leading the team this year is going to be Austin Keys and Eugene Asante. Eugene Asante being a leader on the team in general. And last year you had an issue with linebacker depth. You were not able to lose a linebacker and go into the next play and feel confident that your linebacker core was able to make a play. You lost Cam Riley and Wesley Steiner to the portal this year, and you went to the portal yourself, picked up. I want to say, let me make sure my math is correct here. Two guys. You got Fene. I'm gonna mess up his name every single time I try to read it. Feneje Gote from Maryland, as well as Dorian Mousy from Duke. And then you went to the high school ranks and picked up guys like Demarcus Riddick and DJ Barber. And those are that's kind of going to be how your linebacker depth is listed. You got Asante and Austin Keys, and I think no one really needs to hear me give analysis about how those two are going to be. I think those two are clear cut. The two might be the two best players going on the defensive on the. I don't want to say that. I think Jalen McLeod and Dakota kind of argue for that too. But you go into the year not worried about how your linebackers are going to perform. Your starting linebackers, and then after that, you're curious about what Dorian Mousy can do as a veteran, as in a veteran depth player, and I'm very curious to see how Demarcus Riddick and DJ Barber play. If DJ Barber, I think he is more of a developmental piece. I think you'll probably see more of him next year than this year. Sorry, there's something in my eye, so I have to keep rubbing on it. But Demarcus Riddick is a guy who I've been very high on since I've been watching his film a lot. He's a guy who, when I started a little Auburn dynasty in College Football 25, and I was like, I want to see how Demarcus Riddick plays. And he is probably one of the most fun players I've ever used. And I just the athletic ability that he possesses, just his speed. He is a guy who I'm very excited to see play this year. And I know everyone is on, and rightfully so, very hyped to see what Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson and all those guys can do. I think that Demarcus Riddick needs to get some love from the fans about how he's going to do, because I don't think we're going to see a Demarcus Riddick red shirt. I think we're going to see Demarcus Riddick getting involved early in this linebacker room. He is, if Auburn develops him correctly, he could be what Owen Papa was supposed to be, a pass coverage level linebacker that you're scared to throw over the middle to. And I've been very high on Demarcus Riddick ever. He is just. Everything about him screams Owen Papo, and whether you think that's a good thing or not, the athleticism is there. It's all up to Josh Thornton to develop that talent and to show why he was so highly touted. Why did Georgia and Alabama both want him so badly? And it should be so cool to watch him go out and just ball out. And then you have guys after him like Robert Woodyard, who you're still waiting to see something from. Woodyard having to deal with some I believe some injuries, but we've seen some plays where Robert Woodyard looked lost. He was slow on the field, and as a sophomore going into this year, I believe a redshirt sophomore at that, and I think it's time to kind of show those next steps, because I believe he says sophomore, but I'm pretty sure he's been with the team for, I want to say, about 3 years now. So time to start finally showing the development, showing that why was it such a big deal whenever Auburn flipped him from Alabama. And then that the linebacker room, I think you're going to this year not concerned about the depth like you did last year. Again, like you're not going to have the drop off from Eugene Asante to Wesley Steiner that you had that was last year. You'll get to see guys like Demarcus Riddick, Mousy, Gote, Woodyard. I don't know how much you'll see Barber, but you have a nice little 5 player little rotation of linebackers that you get to see, so no one gets tired. And then, of course, if you need to throw if you need to put one linebacker in, you have Jalen McLeod, who at the edge position has shown some skill at some pass coverage, not too much pass coverage, but overall the linebacker room is very solid. I think that just kind of a shorter preview of this position, because I think you already know what to expect from the starters. You have Eugene Asante and Austin Keys, some of the best leaders on this defense, and you saw that in terms of Eugene Asante was one of the representatives for Auburn SEC Media Days. He had a lot of great things to say about this defense, and he is super excited for this year. He's ready to work. That's his whole thing is let's work. But I think that this linebacker room is very, very solid, and I cannot wait to see how this rotation kind of fills up. And I can't wait to see how Demarcus Riddick goes into this year, showing everybody why he should have been a 5-star. But that kind of does for the linebacker preview and just other football news before we get to men's basketball and some gymnastics news. Damari Alston has changed his number to 0. And, I'm not too high on the number 0 when it comes to offensive players for Auburn. I think it's been a cursed number every single time that an offensive player has worn it. I mean, the first 2 that come to mind are Demetrius Robertson and Coy Moore, who I just think didn't really pan out at Auburn. Don't have the best, I don't think a lot of Auburn fans have a good feeling about how those 2 kind of performed at Auburn. And I think Coy Moore is a great dude. I just don't think that he ever developed into the talent that he could have been. He was a guy who was at LSU, came to Auburn, a lot of hype, had some good plays, but overall, I mean, I think a lot of people still remember the LSU game from 2 years ago, and I'll be remiss to mention the muff punt. But I'm not too high on offensive player for number 0. I don't think it's worked. I don't think offensive player has worked out wearing a 0 for Auburn yet. Defensively, it's worked out pretty fine. I think Owen Papo and Keontae Scott having the 2 big ones, and they worked out very nicely for Auburn. But men's basketball news: Auburn adds yet another high-profile team to their non-conference schedule for this 2024-2025 season, as well as the 2025 season. But Houston will be playing Auburn in a 2-year series starting this year on November 9th. Their first game will be in Toyota Center in Houston. Second game in 2025 will be played in Birmingham. But just kind of going into Auburn's non-con schedule, let me just read out these teams real quick. So, of course, Auburn will be part of the Maui Invitational, which the field of that, Auburn doesn't know who they'll play yet, but it includes, UConn, UConn, the defending back-to-back national champs. North Carolina, a blue blood. Iowa State, a team that was very solid last year. Michigan State, a team that's always in the tournament. Dayton, Memphis, and Colorado, teams that, have had their flashes in the March before. And after that, you got the ACC SEC Challenge, where you're going to be playing against the Coleman Crazies at Duke. And then you got Houston, and then wrapping up with this, so far the non-con is Purdue. That's a tough schedule. And, blue bloods like Auburn don't have to worry about, either the competition. But if Auburn makes it to the end of the regular season with, just only losing maybe like 2 of these games, I think you're in a great place. I think the season is going to be very telling for how the future of Auburn looks, especially because after this year, you don't have a lot of players who are going to be left on scholarship. As we said multiple times, I think I have the picture still. I don't know if I do or not. I do not. I deleted it. Dang. Talking about where Auburn stands in terms of age for their players. Auburn is going to this year with only 2 players on scholarship that are not seniors or grad students. And those two guys are good enough. If they need to at the end of this year, they can leave for the draft. And Tahad Pettiford and Ja'Kai Howard. Auburn is doing some heavy recruiting for the class 2025 and class 2026, trying to make sure that they have teams to go out on the court in those 2 seasons, respectfully. But overall, Auburn is loading up the schedule. Auburn is out with something to prove this year. I think I'm not going to say national championship or bust, but I think that this team probably preseason wise has the highest chance of winning a championship. You have plenty of depth at the guard position. You have depth at the forwards. You have 2 guys who can play center with the best of them in the SEC. So I think you're really hoping that this year is the year that you make it past the Final Four. Or at least make it back to the Final Four again. I think that this team can do that. I think it's one of the best teams in college basketball. And I just can't wait for the season to start up. And I think it's a little under 100 days I can't remember exactly the time period for basketball, but I think it's under 100 days now until college basketball comes back onto our TVs. And then the last little bit of news before we get out of here this morning, gymnastics news. Raise your hand if your favorite school produced a Olympic gold medalist. Every Auburn fan needs to raise their hand because Suni Lee and America won a gold medal for the women, I think the team all around. So huge up. Suni Lee, absolutely a dog. Did very well in the bars. I think everyone, the beam this year, I think has been a little slippery for a lot of people. I think everyone's been kind of moving around on the beam, but Suni helped clinch it with the bars because, she is just the GOAT. Auburn built a statue, her, Darion, that whole team from a couple of years ago, just all doing, their poses. You got to have Darion doing the queen. But huge congratulations to Suni Lee getting just another Olympic medal in and of itself. And, it's also worth noting that she's also a multi-time SEC Gymnast of the Week, which I think it's harder to do than I'm just kidding. Or am I? SEC Gymnast of the Week could be a bigger deal than a gold medal, but it's not here or there. It's tougher competition in the SEC. But that does it for this installment of the College Loop podcast. Of course, I'm Dylan Larck, able to take on Twitter. Of course, you can check me out on there as well as Instagram, Dylan Larck on there. As well, you can find me right here on the College Loop podcast. Would you like, comment, and subscribe? Leave your thoughts on what do you want to hear from Auburn this fall camp? What do you not want to see from Auburn this fall camp? And what do you think of the number 0 in college football? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Does it really matter? Does it depend on who's wearing it? Because I think Damari Alston is good enough to change my opinion of how Auburn offensive players play and wearing that number. But I need to see it on the field first because that number scares me when I see someone on the offense line up with it. And of course, leave your thoughts for Auburn basketball. What's your hot take for where you think Auburn basketball will finish out the season? But of course, that being said, make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music to check out the audio versions of the show. And of course, don't forget to check out the Warport Gaming. That's TWR Gaming to get more of my Kennesaw State Dynasty. The next episode comes out on Saturday, where we continue on still debating whether or not to do it on Heisman or not. Heisman is absolutely ridiculous, especially for a team that can't recruit or can't win games unless the game is really on varsity. But that being said, thanks for watching the Stuff Like College podcast. Again, I'm Dylan Larck, and as always, War Eagle. And it didn't click, so I do.